We are all here. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Wendy, if you would call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Here.
Pam Howard.
Here.
Lori Visda Ward.
Here.
Barbara Cruz.
Here.
Dave Levy.
Here.
Mark Setter.
Here.
Jeff Swanty. Here.
And I would, I'm sorry? Oh. And I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, as printed.
So moved. I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda for this executive session special meeting, June 20th. Wendy, if you'd call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Okay, and then the only agenda item is item 3.1. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss real estate as defined in CRS 24-6-402, Section 4A, and I will entertain a motion to move into executive session based on that citation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move into executive session to discuss real estate as defined in CRS Section 24-6-402, 4A. Is there any discussion? Wendy, if you'd call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
All right, so we will adjourn into the back room, and we will be back at 6. Okay, we adjourned executive session at 5:47 back there, and no actions were taken in executive session. And I am now going to call the regular meeting to order at 6 p.m. Wendy, if you would call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Here.
Pam Howard.
Here.
Lori Visda Ward.
Here.
Barbara Cruz.
Here.
Dave Levy.
Here.
Mark Setter.
Here.
Jeff Swanty.
Thank you. Jeff, if you would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Pam, if you would read the mission statement, please.
Yes. The Thompson School District will be a district that empowers, challenges, and inspires students, faculty, staff, parents, school leaders, and community members to learn, achieve, and excel.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is 2.1, which is the adoption of the agenda for the regular meeting for tonight. And I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as printed. Are there any changes? Hearing none, Wendy, if you would please call the roll.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Thank you. The agenda is unanimously adopted. Next up is item 3.1, which is approval of minutes from the regular meeting on June 6th, 2018, as presented. I will entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on June 6th, 2018. Are there any corrections or changes? No. Hearing none, Wendy, if you would call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
And the minutes from June 6th are unanimously approved. Thank you. This brings us into the public participation portion of the meeting. Item 4.1 is board committee reports, and I'm going to go ahead and start down on my left. Mark, we'll start with you, and then we'll just go down the row.
Much different report than last month. Not a lot of activities. This month I read more about MTSS and also a couple of state statutes regarding funding. That's it.
Oh, nothing?
Just continued support with Kids Pack and wrapping up the family pie. So,
Thanks. And I have nothing tonight as well. Actually, I take that back. I do have something, but I'm going to reserve the last section, the last space for myself. So go ahead, Pam.
I would just like to take a moment and acknowledge Dr. Shear. I think everybody knows that this is his last formal Board of Education meeting, and it's strange to think. But I believe that we are forever thankful and really in his debt. Don't make me laugh, Jeff, or cry. Dr. Shear has stood by the district through thick and thin. He has supported Thompson schools, students, and staff, even during volatile years, not just short amounts of time, but literally he supported our students for several years, well, for every year. And I think the most important thing is that he's guided and led the district with the utmost of integrity and honesty. I truly call him a role model, and I think almost everyone that has worked with Stan or even met Stan can call him a role model. And he has been really someone for our students and each and every employee to look up to. So I just wanted to thank Stan. It's been a great few years working with him, and of course we wish you the best, and hopefully you don't just hang out in Windsor too much. You come back now and then.
Oh, we should. Let's give him a round of applause. Thanks, Pam.
Tough act to follow, so I won't.
And Dave?
Thank you, Pam. Nothing else.
And actually, that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say, so thank you very much. And, I just want to echo what Pam said and wish you well, Stan, in your next adventures. And don't be a stranger, right? All right. Public comments, 4.2. Pam, if you would read the public comment statement, and then Paul will run the time.
Because the board wants to hear the viewpoint of the public and also needs to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner, we have scheduled time during the regular board meetings for comments from the public. The board has set aside an unlimited time for public participation prior to the business portion of each meeting on the first and the third Wednesday of the month, except for July when we don't meet. The time for each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and each individual will only be recognized one time. The board does not respond to comments or answer any questions. Thanks.
Paul?
We have one this evening. We have Ian Stout.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Shear. As a member of our community, I just want to thank the board for considering and pursuing a new mill levy bond issue this upcoming fall. I feel for the continued growth and health of our district. New schools and areas of growth is important, and going and addressing the deferred maintenance are issues that are essential. So thank you for looking at that and considering that. Secondly, I believe the board received communication from the two district charter schools, New Vision and Love and Classical. Is that? So we look forward to receiving details on how the plan for House Bill 1375 was formed and a calculation used, and to work with staff on the plan and the spirit and intent of the House bill through this next school year. Before the final plan actually takes place in the fall of 2019. So we look forward to that and getting details on how that was put together. And then finally, want to take a chance personally for both Dr. Creswell and Dr. Shear Dr. Russell's not here. If you're watching, hopefully you're off and not watching. But Boulder is lucky to have her. I definitely have worked with her over the last several years, and I believe she's done a tremendous job. And what I would say is probably the most difficult role in the school district. And unfortunately, I'm not in town tomorrow. Otherwise, I tell her that myself at her. So if you can please relay that message. And then Dr. Scheer, I mean, you have truly been an inspiration for me. Man of integrity, vision, and leadership. And it's clear the district's in a better position under your tenure here. And so I just wanted to thank you. And so definitely we're excited for TSD's future, but we're definitely sorry to see you both leave, both Dr. Creswell and yourself. So thank you. So thank you. Have a nice
Thanks,
evening.
Ian.
Have a nice meeting.
I believe that concludes public comment. All right. Brings us to the action consent items. I'm going to take them all together. I'll read them off. If any board member wants to pull any one of those items, please speak up and let me know. Otherwise, we will take all 8 of them together. So we'll be considering as the action consent agenda, item 5.1, approval of personnel, extra duty, and coaching recommendations. Item 5.2, approval of gifts and donations. 5.3, approval of early childhood community needs assessment updates and recommendation. 5.4, approval of Head Start grant application. 5.5, approval of 2018-2019 federal grants applications. 5.6, approval of 2018-2019 employee vendors. And 5.7, approval of the following policies: JQE, student fees, ECA/ECAB, security/access to buildings, JFABD, homeless student, and KBA, District Title I parent involvement policies. And finally, item 5.8, approval of the 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 Ferguson High School variance calendar. So does anybody want to pull anything off of there at this time? Excellent. Then I will entertain a motion to approve the action consent items.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the action consent items as presented. Wendy, if you would call the roll,
Oh,
please.
Lori, I
I'm
do
sorry.
have
You have a
discussion.
question?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I have several questions.
Okay.
In 5.1, what is a typical, this is probably Dr. Siebers, what does a typical temporary non-renew look like, that status? I haven't seen that before. It's at the bottom of page 2.
So what does that mean, is what you're asking? What is
Exactly.
temporary?
What does that
temporary?
mean, a temporary non-renew?
So a temporary contract is basically, it's different contracts we have. We have probationary and non-probationary. Temporary contracts are temporary contracts. At times, if it's tied to grant money, if it's tied halfway in the year that someone's being hired, then those come in as temporary contracts.
Okay, I think I read it wrong. What I was seeing was that it's we're temporarily not renewing
Oh.
a contract, but it's a temporary contract and we're not renewing it.
Right.
That's what I was missing. Thank you, I appreciate that. 5.2, I believe I know what ILC means, but I wanted clarification on what AED and CLC stood for.
Is that on the gifts and donations you said?
Yeah.
Gordon, maybe?
ILC, for your first question, Mr. Setter, is Intensive Learning Center. That's the special facilities that we have for those students that have those special needs. And, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
AED are the paddles. I won't try to embarrass
External
myself.
defibrillator?
The
Is it automatic external defibrillator?
defibrillators,
Is
I
somebody
believe that
here who's
is
medical? No?
correct.
I think that's what it is.
So the district has undergone a lot of efforts over the last year or two, and unfortunately, there's a gentleman that's not with us any longer, meaning he has passed away. Nick Wiesen was instrumental as the director of purchasing to go out and solicit donations to have these devices, the AED devices, donated and dispersed throughout the district with the goal of having one in every building. So this is a continuation of that work to have the AED paddles available throughout the district.
And then the last one was CLC.
CLC in, let me just open it here real.
At Mary Blair, CLC program.
There's Monroe, or, see, was that it?
No.
I visited the school, and it's for the kids. CLC is a separate space, I believe, for a learning spot where the.
Sorry, I would have to defer to Dr. Crespo. Could you address that question, please?
We could call her.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't have the
Just-
answer to that.
Do you know Anne Marie?
So I don't know exactly what that means, what the acronym means.
Okay. And that's what that CLC program is. Okay.
Good.
Good?
Yeah, and then the last one, 5.7, I just wanted to more comment on this and then see if any board members wanted to weigh in on it as well, just because it's gets a little bit, it was hard for me to weigh, and I believe, okay, I was looking specifically 5.7, changes to the security, specifically all external doors closed during school hours, adding this as an official policy. And so, you know, what I was looking at that, considering that two sides, right? On the pros, of course, we've got the security concerns. And I think those outweigh the other side of the equation for me. But wanted to mention two specific things that I think, you know, from a district perspective, this is going to be a little bit tricky, just because there's concerns of heat exhaustion, you know, specifically early fall, late spring. Some of our buildings don't have air conditioning. That can get pretty difficult to manage otherwise. And so that is going to be a challenge for people when they're looking at this policy. The second issue is also some class activities like science dissection or painting involve fumes, and our facilities don't always have working or adequate ventilation because of that backlog maintenance. So I just, like I said, I just wanted to comment more than anything because I did feel like that was a kind of a tough decision for me looking at that one. That's it.
All right. Pam, if you would read the gifts and donations.
So the first donation is $2,000 from, or for the Aryan Drumming Project, and that is from the Le Bon Azioni Productions. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, so I'm sorry if I did not. The second donation is for $2,670 to the Deaf and Hearing Impaired Program. That included 2 Rogers pens and 2 Rogers focuses, and that donation was made by the Delta Zeta alumni. The third donation is $1,000 equipment for the ILC at Monroe Early Childhood ILC, and that was made by Debbie Hogfelt. And then the next one is the $12,000 7 AED and 1 cabinet, donation made by Tim Zimmerman and the Thompson Valley EMS. And then we have $1,000 made, or $2,000 made to the CLC program at Mary Blair Elementary School, made by Kevin and Debbie Hogfelt. And then finally, $1,000 to the MESA class for STEM support at Wall Clark Middle School. And that donation was made by the Geo Group Foundation. So once again, we have great community partners that we really appreciate them supporting our Thompson students. So thank you.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions, we'll call the roll on that consent agenda.
Paul Banks,
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you. And the consent items pass unanimously, 7-0.
Madam
And-
President,
Yeah,
if I
in my
may-
zeal to move out of public comment because there was so little, I skipped.
You actually didn't. Now that you've approved
You were sleeping down there?
No, I wasn't sleeping. Now that you've approved the list of new employees, we'd like to
okay.
introduce somebody to you.
Great.
Todd Piccone, if you don't mind, come on up here to the podium if you might. And I'll say a few things, and then I'm going to give him a chance to speak so that they know you actually can talk. Okay.
That'd be
Thompson School District is pleased to announce that it has named Todd Piccone as Chief Operations Officer effective July 1. Mr. Piccone comes to TSD from St. Vrain Valley School District, where he has served as the Director of Construction and Maintenance. As part of his duties, he's been responsible for the overall building operations and maintenance of 4.5 million square feet of space versus us, which is about 2.5 million, including building asset management, coordination with environment and energy staff, as well as overall budget development and oversight. He also led bond operations for the district, including master planning, community meetings, and bond implementation. In addition, Mr. Piccone's career includes extensive experience as an operations manager and project superintendent for private construction companies. Mr. Piccone earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in construction management from Colorado State University. He's also trained as an emergency medical technician. And with that, I'd like to ask Todd to just have the opportunity to say a few things to the board. So welcome to Thompson.
Thank you, Dr. Scheer and Board of Education. It is truly exciting to come to work at a place where I've been a part of in the last 18 years. My kids have grown up in the community. They started kindergarten and one just graduating high school. So taking that excitement and the opportunity that the district has, it truly is a pleasure to come work for you here. The team that I've met in the last several interviews, although exhausting, it was exciting to go through, and I did appreciate it. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future again. And then working with Mark as well here. The next meeting, he'll be up here. So, if there's any question, I'd be happy to answer them. And again, just thank you because it is exciting.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so now we go to action items. So 6.1 is the approval of the quitclaim, titled quitclaim that we discussed. That is the quitclaim of the deed of the land over on North Wilson. South Wilson, to the city of Loveland. It was presented to us in executive session. I will entertain a motion to approve that quitclaim.
So moved.
Second then.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the quitclaim of the title of the land on South Wilson to the city of Loveland. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Wendy, if you would call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. And the next one is item 6.2, which is an approval of a utility easement to the Poudre Valley Rural Electric Association, PVREA, in Berthoud, would that be north of Berthoud High School, on the north border of Berthoud High School, that was also presented in executive session. And I will entertain a motion to approve that easement.
So
So
moved.
moved. Oh, no, please, Bob. Second then.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the utility easement to Poudre Valley REA. Is there any discussion on this item? No, hearing none. Wendy, if you would please call the roll.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you, and that unanimously passes as well. Item 6.3 is approval of the Orthopedic Center of the Rockies Athletic Trainer Agreement. Gordon, that's you. And my understanding of this item is that this is basically a contract that we had with Orthopedic Center of the Rockies last year to provide athletic trainers to our 4 high schools. And this is a renewal, basically, of a new contract renewal. Can't get it to open up.
Want to see mine? Just the.
There was actually. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about that contract for Gordon?
Is this the same company that had the lady that came and talked with us? Yes? No?
The doctor.
Madam
doctor.
President, Dr. Scheer, members of the board, I'm Gordon Jones, Chief Financial Officer for the district, and serving as a poor substitute for Dr. Crespo on this agenda item tonight. Ms. Cruz, you're right. The doctor that was here talking about the concussion protocol is from Orthopedic Center of the Rockies, the same group that this agreement is with.
Just wanted to be sure.
I
Well,
did
this-
have,
oh,
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
So what, Lori, what you said was that was accurate, that this was been in place and is kind of carrying over, or we're actually changing from?
Oh, this is a contract that the district has had in place in lieu of hiring individual or hiring employees to serve in the trainer capacity, athletic training capacity. It's a more cost-efficient and, quite honestly, I won't say that. I was going to say a more we are able to employ more expertise by having Orthopedic Center of the Rockies involved. Certainly, we have doctors that are on staff then with them that are available, as well as the trainers that are there. So it's a more economical approach, and Orthopedic Center of the Rockies, or OCR, as they're commonly referred, is one of the leading vendors in the Northern Colorado marketplace for these types of services, and it is an agreement that we've had for the last at least 3 or 4 years.
I read over it. I realized that they're present at the on-site here within our district. So when the teams are out traveling, do the other teams also have somebody there, or does ours go with them?
Typically, you're right, looking through the agreement, they are staffed during practice times, all practice times that varsity sports are practicing, as well as typically sub-varsity and the actual contests when teams are competing. These trainers are on site at the locations at each school when those events are taking place. Typically, that is the case when you're traveling to another school. Each district has their own such arrangement, whether they're employees of the district or contractors of the district for these services.
Just had one question. It's under publicity, the item E. With the exception of Berthoud High School, the district will recognize OCR physicians as being team physicians for the district. Why are we accepting Berthoud High School?
Sorry, I don't have an answer for why Berthoud would be accepted from that. That's typically a banner that they may put up on the football field or in the gymnasium. I don't know the rationale, I'm sorry, for what for the exclusion of Berthoud is there.
They are included in the services, though, correct?
Absolutely,
Okay,
they
that's
are
how I
one
read
of
it.
the high
Okay.
schools included, yes. And
Okay.
it may be, this is strictly conjecture on my part, but it could be that Berthoud is served more diligently or more thoroughly by a provider in the, not a provider, but the hospitals in Longmont or Boulder,
I
perhaps, rather than Fort Collins, which is where OCR is typically headquartered. That may be the exception, but again, that's conjecture on my part at this point.
So there may be support from a hospital, I get that, and that they may want to be called out on a banner or something. Okay.
Very well could be the case.
Publicity-wise.
But OCR does provide a trainer
Okay.
at Berthoud High School.
Okay. Anybody else? Then I will entertain a motion to approve the athletic trainer agreement with Orthopedic Center of the Rockies.
So moved.
And a second?
Second? No.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the Orthopedic Center of the Rockies athletic trainer agreement for 2018-2019. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Wendy, if you'd call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visda Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you, and that passes unanimously as well. Next up is the approval of compliance with House Bill 17-1375, known as Distributing Mill Levy Override Revenue to Charter Schools. I'm going to have ask for a motion and a second, and then I'm going to actually read the resolution so that we have it read into the minutes, and then we can discuss at that point, if that's okay with everybody. kind of get the formula out there, and then we can have discussion. Is that all right? Okay, so if there's a motion to approve this in a second, then I will read the resolution.
Motion made.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve a resolution. Let me see, where did it go? In compliance with HB 17-1375, distributing mill levy override revenue to charter schools. And I am going to go ahead and read the whole resolution into the minutes. So it's a resolution, adoption of a plan for distribution of additional mill levy revenue. Whereas House Bill 17-1375, codified as Section 22-32-108.5, the Colorado Revised Statutes 2017, provides that a participating school district may create and adopt a plan to be effective in the 2019-2020 fiscal year to allocate all or a portion of additional mill levy revenue to charter schools and innovation schools authorized by a school district. And whereas the voters of Thompson School District R2J have generously approved additional mill levy revenues for specific purposes in elections held in 1999 and 2006, and whereas the school district is a participating school district because it collects additional mill levy revenue, is a district of innovation, and has authorized charter schools within its boundaries, and whereas Section 22-32-108.5, Section 4A of the CRS expressly provides that the distribution of additional mill levy revenues is subject to statutory limits or requirements that apply to specific mill levy authorizations and any purposes specifically approved by voters in approving additional mill levy revenue. And whereas the school district's voters in the 1999 MLO and 2006 MLO authorized and approved mill levy override revenues for specific purposes that the Board of Education has honored in every year since obtaining voter approval. And whereas the Board of Education has authorized Monroe Elementary and Winona Elementary as innovation schools in the school district and is a party to ongoing charter school contracts with New Vision Charter School and Loveland Classical Schools. And whereas the school district has historically provided incremental funding to charter schools from the school district's general fund, and whereas the Board of Education has considered and held a public meeting concerning the adoption of a plan under Section 22-32-108.5 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, and whereas the Board of Education finds and determines that it is necessary and in the best interests of the school district to honor the specific authorizations approved by the voters in the 1999 MLO and the 2006 MLO, the revenues from which have been consistently allocated since approval. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Thompson School District R2J that, unless and until otherwise updated and modified by the Board in future budget years, which authority is hereby specifically granted by law and reserved, the Board adopts the following HB 17-1375 plan. A, that for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, the school district will allocate to its charter schools and innovation schools incremental funding from general fund reserves on the same basis and at the same level as was done in the 2017-2018 fiscal year. And B, that unless otherwise modified by the Board as reserved above, commencing in fiscal year 2019-2020, the 1999 MLO will continue to be allocated and distributed according to the following purpose specifically approved by the voters for, quote, funding new costs for operating Mountain View High School, end quote, and C, that unless otherwise modified by the Board as reserved above, commencing in fiscal year 2019-2020, the 2006 MLO will continue to be allocated and distributed according to the following purposes, specifically approved by the voters for, quote, restoring the 54 teaching positions in order to reduce class size and return the student-teacher ratio to the 2005-2006 level, and funding utility and operating costs of new schools and additions authorized in the 2005 bond, end quote, and D, that unless otherwise modified by the Board as reserved above, and as long as the language of voter approval permits, commencing in fiscal year 2019-2020, the remaining unrestricted additional mill levy revenues authorized in the 1999 MLO and the 2006 MLO will be allocated to charter and innovation schools authorized by and within the school district at the rate of 95% of the school district's per pupil remaining unrestricted additional mill levy revenues from those MLOs multiplied by the number of students enrolled in each charter school and innovation school for the applicable budget year, and E, that the school district's HB 17-1375 plan will include an estimate of the amount, a description, and the benefits to district students of additional mill levy revenues that the school district spends on administrative services or other district-level uses, and F, that in the event future additional mill levy revenue ballot questions are approved by the school district's voters, the new revenues will be allocated by any specific methods included in the ballot language authorizations and any purposes specifically approved by voters. Absent any restrictions, 95% of the new additional mill levy revenues will be allocated to the school district's charter schools and innovation schools operating within the boundaries of the school district that are authorized by the Board of Education by a percentage derived by dividing each charter or innovation school's audited funded pupil count by the school district's total audited funded pupil count. And finally, G, the Board of Education will periodically review this HB 17-1375 plan and update it if and as necessary to ensure that the remaining unrestricted additional mill levy revenues authorized in the 1999 MLO and the 2006 MLO, as defined above, will be equitably distributed consistent with applicable law. And it's presented to us to be approved today.
Please repeat that.
Sure, you bet. You actually do have a copy of it in Board Docs, but I did want to get it read into the minutes. Discussion. Questions for Gordon? Oh, questions for Gordon or Dr. Scheer?
I just think that
Dave?
I think the motion is very clear and very succinct. I have no questions.
Okay. Anybody else?
Could we get a summary of the production timeline for this document? Just kind of how was it put together and rough dates as to when it was assembled and the research that was done, the spreadsheets supporting it and backing it?
For the resolution itself,
Yeah.
that was the resolution language that you just heard was prepared entirely by District Legal Counsel, Kaplan and Ernest. That took place with conversations over the last 2 to 3 weeks with them in developing this language. It was finalized on last Friday. Was the final version of this document that was produced. There are districts across the state that are doing the same thing right now, developing plans. There's a couple different methods that are available through House Bill 17-1375 that can be considered. But the overview that was provided to the board on the June 6th meeting was essentially the same methodology, the same language, the same characteristics of this final plan that was prepared by legal counsel and finalized last Friday. In preparing that, there was information that was provided by staff of the district to show what the general ledger costs incurred for those particular call-out items from the 1999 and the 2006 mill levy override ballot questions were, to show exactly what those were, to then come to a calculation. But I should mention that those were based on 16-17 audited figures, because those were the most recent available audited figures. This will be updated each year. So the plan has to be posted by the district by July 1st, 2018, here in another week or so. And then the actual distribution of that revenue does not take place until the 2019-2020 budget year, which will begin approximately next January and then be coming for. So a year from this time is when the 2019-2020 budget will be brought before the board for adoption. That's when the actual dollar amount has to be determined.
And so if I recall in the budget, the dollar amount that's going to our charter schools in the upcoming year, I think, went up or increased, right? And that increase was because of the increase at the state level in per pupil funding, or am I off by a year?
Not for that particular line item. And let me make a point of clarification. Going back even further, 3 years ago, there was methodology that was created by staff at the direction of Dr. Scheer through his wisdom and interpretation of some of the facts that were in play at that point, a methodology to still honor the will of the voters from those two mill levy overrides, the 99 and the 2006, but yet come up with some methodology that was available for creating a number of general fund reserves that the board at that point determined wanted to be allocated to the charter schools. So that came from very specifically general fund reserves. House Bill 171375 deals specifically with mill levy override revenue that's received. Right now, the district collects $14,040,000 on an annual basis, and that's capped at that number. It will never go above that number. That's House Bill 171375, which was passed a year ago, not the most recent legislative session, but the 2017 legislative session. That is when that terminology was put into place when the legislation went into effect that said it shall be a sharing of MLO revenue versus a sharing of general fund reserve revenue, which had been done the prior 3 years by the district, including the budget for 18-19 that's planned for presentation for adoption tonight.
All right, thank you.
Paul, did you have a question?
Yeah, a couple of clarifications. So I may be reading this too much, but so the July 1st deadline, do they choose that one just to kind of align with the budget process that most districts are going through, and this is the time, and so this is why our district and probably most every other district is doing it now versus some other time?
Legislation calls for that date, so I can't say what the rationale that the legislators used in 2017 when they passed this legislation, but it does align with the budget years, July 1st, and giving a year's notice to here's the plan that we're going to do next year when we're doing the budgeting process for the 2019-2020 year. I think that's the magic in the July 1st, 2018 date for having a plan, if the district is going to adopt a plan, to have that posted on the district website. And when I say district, I mean any district in the state that has two things have to take place for this bill to apply, for this legislation to apply. There has to be charter schools that are authorized by the district in that district, and there has to be mill levy overrides that have been approved by voters in the past.
I think you touched on my second one. So how long have the charter schools and/or innovation schools known about this? It's been
The
a year.
legislation was passed a year ago, yes.
Okay, so it's not a surprise. No surprise to them. No, it's been out there. It's been wherever. It's been.
Correct. The legislation has been in effect for 1 year. It's just those deadlines that are associated with that legislation that are now coming due.
I had one other question regarding the obligations set forth in the 1999 mill levy override and the 2006 mill levy override. Do you know about how much those obligations cost the district to be achieved?
I'd be speaking strictly from memory at this point, and I'm hesitant to offer that because this number will be recalculated each year based on the most recent audited figures that are available. So 16-17 was used, but it would be a guess if I threw out a number right now.
Can you provide it, though, later?
Certainly.
Because you have it. You just don't have it on the top of your head.
Correct.
Will that work if you just
Yeah.
shoots out an email.
I think so.
Can
Yeah.
you
Do
do
you have
that,
a rough estimate?
I was going to say of the $14,040,000 that was collected in revenue, there is probably 8 million of that is restricted, that is pulled out for those specific bullet point items in the 2 mill levy override ballot questions that are being termed from the methodology that the district has created as being restricted mill levy override, the remainder being discretionary. So I believe it's 8 million approximately, again, approximate numbers, 8 million restricted, 6 million discretionary.
And then how long has it been since we hit the caps on those?
We have been at the $14,040,000 in revenue collected for this will be the 18-19 year will be the third year of being maxed out on those, based on the language that was in the ballot questions for both of those. They're both limited both from a dollar perspective and a mill levy rate perspective. We're at the dollar perspective right now, the dollar limit of $14,040,000.
I just want to make a comment that before I came on the board made the decision that for the unrestricted amount of money to share it with the charters on a prorated basis, proportional to the population. This was before any legislation was even discussed in the legislature for this. And the board did it because it believes that they're taxpayers and they're citizens and they deserve their share. And I think that was the right decision. And I think the school district should be complimented that it's, even in tight times, it's generous. It doesn't, the school district looks at all students being important. And I think that was the right decision. So I congratulate the district for making that. And then the law is now requiring it. So we're just going to be consistent with the law. We're just a couple of years in front of it.
I could expand on that. I would say that's due to the diligence, the foresight, the intelligence of the superintendent sitting to your right that developed that plan.
And I also want to point out that, and we haven't been focusing on this because charter school is right in the name of the bill and all that, but it also affects the innovation schools, and we have 2 innovation schools in the district as well. So that money needs to be shared on that same sort of equal basis with those innovation schools, correct?
That is correct.
Monroe and Winona.
And further to Mr. Levy's point of the district being a trendsetter, if you will, in this methodology that mirrors very closely something that was put in place 3 years ago that mirrors very closely, if not exactly, the methodology that's in the legislation that was passed. Very similar from an innovation school standpoint. The district is allocating in the budget each year since the innovation schools have been put into place a dollar amount that's associated with additional funding for those innovation schools. This then would replace those line items in the non-FTE expenditure categories of the district budget.
Just going to add one more comment. So echo what Mr. Levy said in terms of being creative and supportive of our charter schools, but also I appreciate it was in there that we're making a point just in terms of our integrity and our transparency and clarity that we're emphasizing. When we go out for an MLO and we specifically ask our voters for things that we don't mess around with that we stick by that, we do what we say we're going to do. And, we intend to do upcoming MLOs as well. And so I'm just glad that's in there and clear and people can see that.
Very well said, the will of the voter.
All right. We are exactly 100% on time to the minute. I would just like to point that out for once. Wendy, if you would call the roll on this.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Vistor Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you. So that HB 171375 plan is unanimously adopted. Gordon, I'm just going to have you stay right there because item 6.5 is the approval of the 2018-2019 proposed budget. And we've seen the budget. We've looked at the budget. Gordon's explained the budget. And so I will
communities?
You know, I think I'll entertain a motion to approve and a second.
So
and then-
moved,
then
and
there can-
second.
Then there can be discussion. So Mr. Levy moved to approve the 2018-2019 budget, and I hear a second. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2018-2019 budget. Are there any questions or discussion?
Good job, Gordon.
All right. I think we all echo that.
That's
Hearing-
district staff, if I could, please. They carry the bulk of the burden of preparing the budget each year. So thank you for the acknowledgement, but that really belongs to the business services staff.
And please tell them.
Yeah,
that
share our
we-
thanks.
Yeah, share our
And-
thanks.
And they're probably thankful that you didn't make them come and listen to this every night, so. Wendy, if you would call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visitor Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you. And the 2018-2019 budget is unanimously approved. Moving right along to item 6.6, which is a 6.6, approval of the 2018 supplemental budget. And again, we've seen this. I will entertain a motion.
We approved the 2018-2019 supplemental.
17-18.
17-18 supplemental budget.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2017-2018 supplemental budget. Is there any discussion? Are there any questions? Hearing none. Wendy, if you would call the roll.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visitor Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
And the 17-18 supplemental budget passes unanimously. Next is 6.7, you're still here. Okay, 6.7, approval of the State of Colorado interest-free cash flow loan program. And again, entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the State of Colorado interest-free cash flow loan program. Questions, discussion? If you remember, this is a program that we entered into last year, so this is basically the same deal. All right, hearing none. Wendy, if you would call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Visitor Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you. So our participation in the State of Colorado interest-free cash flow loan program is unanimously approved.
Madam President, if I could just add to that, that gives the board the ability, or the district the ability to, not the obligation of participating in the program.
Correct. Thank you.
So should there be changes to the cash flow statement that backs this up, there's no obligation of the district. It gives, again, it's interest-free. It's repaid from the proceeds that we receive, that the district receives from property taxes that are assessed locally, collected locally, and remitted locally. It's just a timing standpoint, because those are remitted to the district starting in March, May, and June are the three primary months that we receive that cash flow.
Thanks. Next up is item 6.8, approval of nutritional services rate increase. Again, a motion, and then we can discuss.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the nutritional services rate increase. Is there any discussion or any questions for Gordon on that? Paul?
Just more of a comment, just because I'm personally aware of the great efforts that the nutritional department made. And I know there, I think even on the Reporter Herald, there were some comments about the prices going up and everything else. So I just know, if I try to go outside the district and get a good meat product and fresh fruit and vegetables and expect someone to prepare it for me and serve it to me and everything else, there's no way I could ever get that for the price they're charging it. So I just know they've made tremendous strides the last few years. I think there's salad bars in just about every school, if not. So they've made great strides in this area. So I think it's even though we're having to increase a little bit for labor costs and stuff, that it's still a great deal for our family. So I appreciate what they're doing.
I will echo that as the mom of kids who don't like to make their own lunches and who eat school lunches. Yeah.
Madam President, if I could,
Do a good
if the
job.
board has any questions, we are fortunate to have with us tonight, whether you want to ask her questions or not, but at least acknowledgement for Lisa Kendall, who is the Director of Nutrition Services. serving over 1.5 million meals a year is no small accomplishment for Lisa and her team. So kudos to Lisa and Nutrition Services, certainly.
I will ask one question that I don't think can be answered because I can't predict it. But so inflation and commodity costs have been fairly stable, if not even declined a little bit over the last few years. Knowing what I know about the market, that seems to be changing. I mean, is there any expectations that this particular price increase is we expect it to hold like it has in the past for several years? Or do we think this may be a start of... Okay.
I have, go ahead. I have a question. When will, based on our current projections, when will our reserves be expired?
That's a tough question to ask because we would expect this enterprise fund. I would like to remind the board and remind the community that Nutrition Services is a separate fund entirely from the general fund. So the finances are handled completely outside of the general fund. They have the same requirements of holding a reserve balance, and it's operating as a enterprise fund is the terminology in governmental accounting that's used, meaning Nutrition Services operates like an enterprise. It's the expectation of the district, and I'm sure Lisa would echo this, as we migrate and make some of the reorganization changes to production kitchens, to more of a production kitchen approach, rather than having each individual school prepare everything from the beginning to the end. We have production kitchens that will disperse the food on a daily basis for then finishing at the local school level. There are efficiencies to be gained there, and the expectation is that enterprise fund, the Nutrition Services Enterprise Fund, will perform at a break-even analysis or add a little bit to reserve balance. So based on the projected budgeted, because in the budget that you just adopted for 2018-19, it includes the Nutrition Services budget as well. Based on that, there are 5 or 6 years of reserves available to operate at that level, but we would not anticipate that being the case.
Are they beginning to make those changes this year, or is that for next year? The changes to the...
I would be glad to let Lisa answer that, but she is...
Yeah, go ahead.
She has been knee-deep in this. I'll let her give you all the great details.
I was just curious about that piece of it.
So I've been more than knee-deep in it, I will say, but so it's a process that actually started 2 years ago, and it was intended to be like a 3 to 5 year plan. So we are right smack dab in the middle at this point. We've done reorganization of some staff and made some small changes to the production model, but that will continue into the next couple of years.
Is it impacting the elementary mostly, or is the food preparation occurring at middle school, high school?
So it will be at 3 production kitchens. It'll be at Mountain View High School, it'll be at Irwin Middle School, and it will be at Bill Reed.
Okay.
So that's where the major production will go on, and then it will be distributed to all schools. We do have a majority of elementary students that participate in the program, so it would in turn affect more that way, yes.
And then Dr. Banks had kind of mentioned it, but I was very curious because my kids really, really enjoy the salad bars. And so I was wondering, yes, thank you so much for that program. The fresh fruits, the fresh vegetables, the cottage cheese and breakfast in the mornings, huge hit with my kids. I was curious, do all of our schools have those salad bars? How's that rollout program going?
So most of them have a freestanding salad bar at this point. There are some that are incorporating it in like their serving line, but most of them do have a freestanding salad bar at this point, yes.
That's great. Thank you.
Pam?
So the number of 1.5 million lunches was mentioned. Is that accurate, or is that all meals, breakfast and lunches?
The 1.5 was for all meals this year.
That's all meals, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
The majority is lunch, of course, yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't include the summer program, does it?
No, it does not.
That's completely separate.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think some of us saw some, negative comments floating around on social media, and I just want to say thank you for really adding to our children's educational, value that they can now focus in school a lot of times because of the breakfasts and lunches that we offer. Some free and reduced, and some pay the full price. So you guys play a really important part, I think, of the day-to-day experience our kids have. So thanks to you and your staff, too. We
Yes,
appreciate it.
I have a phenomenal staff, so
Yeah, that's
thank you.
awesome.
All right, we ready to take a vote? Wendy, call the roll, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Vistor Ward.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy.
Aye.
Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
All right, and that passes unanimously as well. Final action item for tonight is item 6.9, approval of the 2018-2019 Board of Education meeting calendar. We had this presented last time. We did make a couple of changes based on what board members requested during the meeting. And I believe, Wendy, you might want to help me out, but I believe what we did is we finagled some dates around in January to make sure we have 2 regular meetings and a work session. And, oh, Gordon, I'll get to you. Just hang right there. And I think
We did not add an extra one in March. We discussed that we would
Right.
see what was going on, and then we would add an extra one
Right.
as it got closer.
So we have a regular meeting in March and a study session in March, and we kind of reserve we can always, after the 6th of March, when we have that meeting and we decide what we want to do, we can always add a meeting on the 13th or the 27th if we need to, depending on what we're up to at that time of year. So this is the proposed calendar for next year. I will entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2018-2019 Board of Education meeting schedule. Any questions or comments? Terrific. Wendy, if you would call the roll on that, please.
Paul Banks.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Lori Vistor Ward.
Aye, sorry.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Dave Levy. Mark Setter.
Aye.
Jeff Swanty.
Aye.
Thank you, and that passes unanimously. And I'm going to bounce back to Gordon because he did ask me for a minute.
Just if I could, Madam President, I appreciate the indulgence, but first, thanks to the board. I know that the budget process is very long and drawn out, and you're tired of seeing my face up here week after week after week during the budget process, but I appreciate the attention and the questions that have come from that. In my 3 years in the district, this to me has been the smoothest process from a budget perspective, and that could come with a bit of wisdom in the years, although my brief 3 years, I spent a week there one night. That's what the 3 years sometimes feel like, but on other aspects, they have flown by. So I appreciate the board's indulgence in following the budget process throughout the entire process. And related to that, on a personal level, I would be remiss if
Well said.
I didn't thank Dr. Scheer for the opportunity that he's given me 3 years when I interviewed for the position under fairly difficult circumstances, not so much for me, but certainly for the rest of the staff. In the final interview with Dr. Scheer, where the buck stops here, when he said, "Yeah, I know you don't have any governmental or education accounting experience, but for some reason, I have a feeling you've been around the block a time or two." True, maybe, in 30-plus years, but certainly from my heart, Dr. Scheer, thank you very much. Thanks for your service to the district, and obviously, from a personal level, thank you very much.
Thanks, Gordon. And we're glad he made that decision as well. Believe me. All right, that, believe it or not, takes us to the end of the agenda. There are no discussion items tonight. There are 2 written reports. 8.1 is the monthly financial report for May of 2018, and 8.2 is the early childhood administrator report for May of 2018. Any questions on either of those while we're here? Excellent. I will remind everyone that we have a 4 o'clock study session in our
132?
usual room. We will start with, if you looked at the agenda, we're changing it around again a little bit. We will start with a report from David Hill and David Hill Company, who did the phone survey just recently completed phone survey, so we will have him on the phone presenting that. And then we will, hold on just 1 second, Paul. Then we will break at 5 o'clock. There's a little reception in this room for Dr. Crespo. We have to accommodate Mr. Hill because he's in Alabama, or Dr. Hill, I guess. I believe he's in Alabama, so there's a time weirdness. And so we'll take him first at 4 o'clock, and then we'll break, come out here, and say our goodbyes to Dr. Crespo. Everybody's welcome to that. That's from 4 to 6 here in this room. And then we'll re-adjourn back in there for the rest of the agenda. Dave?
Wendy, I would like a paper copy of that report. I just find it easier to make notes and search back. I don't know if anybody else wants to have it.
Which one?
Of this is the survey.
Oh, the survey, okay.
Does
So the
anybody
one
else-
that we've got,
Yeah,
Okay,
you know,
okay.
there's 30 or so.
I just want to make sure she knows
Yes.
for sure.
Does anybody else want to request that?
Do you just want the 2016, because we also got a copy of, no, 2018, this is 2018.
Yes.
Sorry, there's so many years going by here this tonight.
Just the current one.
Just the current one, okay.
Right.
Because the other one is provided to us as well, the
Yeah,
last
I-
one.
that's
and-
fine.
Okay, all right. Anybody else need a printed copy? Paul?
Yeah, if he's
Barb?
gonna do it.
So we're up to 3,
Easier to look at it.
4. Why don't you do one for everybody, Wendy?
Sure will. Yep.
Easier that way, because
I'll be the only one that won't
once
get
we
one.
see somebody having one, then we'll all want one. Right, okay. Yeah, so that would be great. Anything else? I think I think you guys all got your orders in for food tomorrow, right? Wendy took care of
A
that.
couple.
M&Ms.
No, I think it's a little bit better than just M&Ms, but yes. Okay, anything else before we adjourn tonight? All right, just a reminder that we do not have regularly scheduled meetings during July. It's our 1 month of vacation. I don't foresee any special meetings, but you'll hear from me if we have a need to call a special meeting in the month of July. All right, thank you. Adjourned.